Yorkshire. Hi.
Hello.
Are you feeling sorry for Harry?
I am.
Right. So you're the first to say that, but it's good to hear from you. Tell us why.
Because I think ever since he was the third leg on the stool of his brother and girlfriend or wife, they were happy to do everything with him. As soon as he met someone else, I think his brother's very jealous of him. And he's changed completely since he married Catherine.
Okay, Marilyn, thank you very much. So
I
you think it's more on William's side?
He has more influence on his father than he should.
Okay. William, you mean, or Harry?
I really don't want anybody that spiteful as a king.
Okay, well, so now we're on William. Right. Whoa. Well, we don't necessarily need evidence to talk about things.
No, it would be nice.
A court of law. It would be nice, yeah. Well, there are books and stuff. Thank you, Marilyn.
I really don't want anybody that spiteful as a king. 8 words, said calmly, live on air to millions of listeners. No script, no PR team, no spin doctor standing behind her feeding her lines. Just an ordinary British caller telling Jeremy Vine exactly what she thinks about the man who is next in line to sit on the throne of the United Kingdom. And squaddies, I need you to sit with that for a second, because for years, we've been told a story. We've been told that the British public adores William, that he's the future-facing king, that he's warm, relatable, a family man, the reasonable one, the safe pair of hands compared to his difficult younger brother. That's the narrative the Rota has been selling you since roughly 2018, when Meghan walked into this family and the entire UK tabloid machine decided it needed a new villain. But every now and then, the mask slips. Every now and then, someone who isn't paid by a palace press office, isn't currying favour for a knighthood, and isn't angling for their next royal exclusive gets a live microphone. And the truth comes tumbling out. That's exactly what happened on the Jeremy Vine show. And today we're breaking down exactly what was said, why it matters, and why the palace machine is going to be working overtime to bury this clip. So here's how it went down. A caller, we'll call her by her first name, Marilyn, since that's what Jeremy used on air, phones into the show. Jeremy asks her a simple question. Does she feel sorry for Harry? Her answer, yes. Immediately, unapologetically, yes. And her reasoning is fascinating because it's not the reasoning tabloid Britain has spent years trying to force-feed the public. She doesn't talk about Megxit. She doesn't mention Netflix deals or book royalties or any of the manufactured outrage points the Rota loves to recycle. Instead, she goes right back, to the dynamic inside that family before Meghan ever entered the picture. She describes Harry as the third leg on the stool, tagging along with his brother and his brother's girlfriend, later his wife, Catherine. Everyone happy, everyone included, everyone getting along fine. And then, her words, as soon as he met someone else, I think his brother's very jealous of him. Let that sink in, squaddies. A member of the British public, completely unprompted, is identifying jealousy, William's jealousy, as the root of this entire family rupture. Not Meghan, not the tabloid's favourite boogeyman. Jealousy. And she says it changed completely the moment Harry found happiness with someone of his own. Jeremy tries to steer it, the way hosts on shows like this often do when a caller starts getting a little too close to an uncomfortable truth. He asks her to clarify. Does she mean William has more influence over their father than he should? And that's when she drops the line that's now ricocheting across social media. I really don't want anybody that spiteful as a king. No hedging. No, I'm not saying he's a bad person, but just a direct, plain English verdict on the character of the man who will one day be Britain's head of state. And Jeremy, visibly trying to move things along, mutters something about needing evidence, as if lived public perception isn't evidence in itself, before thanking her and cutting to the next call. That's it. That's the whole exchange. 30 seconds, maybe less. But 30 seconds that tell you more about how ordinary Brits actually feel than 1,000 fawning tabloid front pages ever will. Now here's where it gets interesting, because this clip didn't just sit quietly in the show's archive, it went viral. It got clipped, posted and quote tweeted by accounts that cover this family closely. And the replies are honestly a goldmine of receipts. One user pointed out that William's lack of restraint, the way, in her words, he hounded his brother and his wife through courtiers and press contacts, isn't some fringe conspiracy theory anymore. It's become a mainstream talking point. People are openly naming names, openly discussing the role palace communications staff allegedly played in briefing against Harry and Meghan, and openly asking why that's treated as normal Windsor business as usual. Another commenter didn't hold back on William's temperament, flatly saying he'll go down as one of the worst monarchs in modern history because he simply doesn't have the emotional regulation the job demands. Someone else went further, floating armchair theories about undiagnosed mental health struggles. Now look, squaddies, we're not doctors, and we're not here to diagnose anyone from a Twitter thread. But when multiple total strangers independently are landing on the same read of a man's temperament, that's not nothing. That's a pattern. There was even a history buff in the replies comparing William to King John. You know, the guy who behaved so badly after his brother Richard the Lionheart died, that England ended up writing the Magna Carta just to rein in his abuses of power. Someone joked it might be time for Magna Carta 2.0. Dark humour, sure, but also a pretty pointed commentary on power without accountability. And then there's the media critique, because this is where our channel always ends up circling back to, isn't it? One user pointed out something we've been saying for months. The British press protects William the exact same way it once protected Charles when he was cheating on Diana and getting savage for it publicly. There was a full-blown image rehabilitation campaign for Charles and Camilla, complete with softened coverage and carefully placed sympathetic profiles. Now it's William's turn. Same playbook, same softening, same silence about anything unflattering. One commenter went as far as calling William's public persona an act, grimacing for cameras, performing sincerity, while allegedly being complicit in exactly the kind of press manipulation that made his own mother's final years so miserable. Brutal? Maybe. But is it wrong? That's the question the Rota really doesn't want you asking. Here's why this 15-second radio call matters so much more than it should, squaddies. For years, the narrative war around this family has been fought almost entirely on one side's terms. Harry and Meghan get op-eds questioning their motives, their finances, their parenting, their mental health, their every facial expression at every public appearance. Meanwhile, William and Kate get glossy magazine covers, soft-focus profiles, and a press pack that treats any criticism as practically treasonous. But real people, the ones actually being polled, actually calling into radio shows, actually posting their honest opinions online without a PR strategy behind them, keep telling us something different. They keep telling us the tide is turning. That the William is the reasonable one narrative doesn't hold up under scrutiny. That people are watching how he's treated his own brother, the way the palace, through intermediaries and friendly press contacts, is widely believed to have shaped negative coverage of Meghan from the very beginning, and drawing their own conclusions. This is exactly why moments like this Jeremy Vine call get buried so fast. It's not really about one caller's opinion. It's about what happens if this becomes the mainstream conversation instead of the exception. It's about what happens when spiteful becomes the word ordinary Brits reach for when they picture their future king. Instead of steady or dependable, the words the palace communications machine has spent a fortune trying to manufacture. And let's be honest about something else too. Harry didn't ask to be pitted against his brother. He didn't ask for a decade of tabloid front pages painting him as the difficult one while quietly enduring what, by every account, was a campaign of undermining from inside his own family. He offered repeatedly to fund his own security. He's spoken, calmly and on the record, about wanting reconciliation with his father. He showed up in Birmingham for the Invictus Games countdown. He showed up for Well Child. He keeps showing up, keeps doing the work, keeps choosing grace in public, even when the family narrative machine keeps choosing to paint him as the problem. Meanwhile, the man this caller called Spiteful gets a decade-long, tabloid-funded glow-up. That's the double standard, squaddies. That's the receipts. And that's why every time an ordinary person cuts through the noise, on live radio, in a tweet reply, in a comment section, and says the quiet part out loud, it matters. So let's ask the real question and drop it in the comments. Do you think William has the temperament to be king? Or do you think, like this caller, like half of Twitter, like a growing number of ordinary Brits, that the mask is finally starting to slip? If this video gave you the receipts you needed today, do me a favor, hit subscribe, ring that notification bell, and drop a comment with your honest take. This channel only exists because squaddies like you keep showing up, keep sharing, and keep demanding the truth the rota doesn't want printed. We've got more breakdowns coming all week, so stay locked in. Until next time, stay loud, stay informed, and never let them gaslight you into thinking you didn't hear what you just heard. Peace, squaddies.